Is he throwing and catch?
I started throwing balls at what I want to do is I want to take package tape and I want to line one of the hallways with packaging tape. And then we have a ball pit. And so I have all these balls and just like throw and catch on packaging tape. It's kind of a fun thing.
Was it supposed to be catch or frisbee or something?
Yeah. And then I'd have him like when I pick all the balls off of the tape, then I'd give him like a laundry basket. And like throw it, like let him run. I try and catch him with a laundry basket.
Cool.
Saw that on a computer.
That works. And team stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some team sports is helpful.
Mm.
Because a
So
lot of the martial arts is is a combative thing, not a cooperative thing so much. So that's another aspect I think is a relevant thing. How do you work together with other people for a common goal as opposed to how do you fend off attackers? Right? It's a whole different mindset metaphor of how you interface with the world.
yeah, now that I think about that, there's in this particular school, there's a lot of tournament, and so team against team, still yet. I hear you.
But still, there's a team anyway that you like, because to the fault of many a team winning is when one guy thinks they're the most important person on the team, and like in basketball, hogs the ball and all these kind of things, right? It's like the idea that you're an equal member contributing. You're not like thought about you on the team is something's never. Sometimes there are a few people that don't grow beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, to the detriment of the whole kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not a strong metaphor for the world, I don't know what is.
I'm not familiar with that one, Dutchman with the hole.
The what?
The Dutchman with the hole, I'm not familiar with
I
that.
don't know that one. What's the finger in the dike thing? Is that the Dutchman in the hole? Holding back the flood? What do you mean by the Dutchman
Oh,
in the hole?
I wanted clarity. I didn't know. I never heard of that for that term before. I know
The
my 40.
Dutchman in the hole?
I've never heard of that in 45 years. But then you said the finger holding back the dam.
Right. There's a hole in the dike, which is what they would call like a levee or something, right? And it's leaking. So he's just puts his finger in it to hold it because I suspect, I can't remember the details, but I suspect you get a little thing like that, and the more it flows, the more it erodes, and the more it makes a bigger hole, and then eventually it'll just erode the hole down to failure, right?
To failure.
To failure. To failure. Maybe you learn from failure.
So the reason why I wanted to put you on the spot is I wanted to celebrate who you are in my life from first meeting you to where we are now and every phase of contribution that you've presented to me. I first met you, I first knew of you in 2004 because you had a name for yourself in the Acupressure Institute. And I first went to the Acupressure Institute. I almost quit because Jin Shin pissed me off. And I didn't like the three, it was like basic, intermediate, advanced acupressure that you had to take. And it was just all Jin Shin, point location, and point combinations. I hated it. And I was just about to quit until I saw Brian. And then I was like, this is it. So I learned Tui Na and I focused on Tui Na, a little bit of Shiatsu. And then in that, when I got past the basic 250, that's when I started hearing your name. And I was like, oh. But by then, 2006, I went to China. And so it wasn't until 2010 that I had finished my training and I started coming back home and I wanted to seek you out. And I specifically sought you out for Tui Na. And I didn't know that you were movement. And the first time I met you was 17th and Clay outside of ACCHS. And I was like, oh, I get to learn Tui Na from you. Like, let me see how you move, right? You like put me on the spot and you made me move. And I was like, oh. And so then I, recognized your skill there as well. And we started to kick it and move. And one of the first things you taught me was I remember showing you like this kind of snake creeps through grass drill. You're like, oh, do it backwards. do it backwards. No, it goes like this. And so, yeah, I wanted to thank you for that initial meetup. And there's going to be more thanking. This is basically, I just wanted to record me praising you for however long this goes. Right. And so that was the first thing. Do you want to say anything on that?
My memory is we were actually working in the lobby because there were no rooms available or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a place under the stairs or between some doors or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that old ACCHS. What a wonderful school. It used to be a brothel.
Mm-hmm. I know of you because I remember I didn't know of you before, but somehow I got aware of, I guess it was posts you were doing while you were traveling and stuff like that. So like, well, who is this guy? He's doing a lot of this training. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I did like this blog out there. I had a MySpace group that I managed. A lot of people went to Wudang because I made my journey public. So that's how you heard of me.
Well, I don't know MySpace, but I mean, it might have been, was Facebook then? I have no idea.
I think so,
yeah. Yeah.
Well, I kind of, I don't want to use a strong word like apprentice because I failed. Like you tried to take me through astrology, and like that's when I had my brain like maxed out. But I spent so much time with you and went to all the extreme stretching out in San Francisco in the dog patch. We'd always hook up at the park and train. I'd introduce you to my friends and my clients and my students. And probably the biggest thing you helped me with early on was language. Because I knew my body, I didn't know anatomy. I didn't know kinesiology terms, and because I didn't have that, I wasn't able to translate my skill to this world, because they want to see your certifications, they want to, they want to hear a certain type of language, and I'm talking in terms of chi and shit, So you were able to teach me a language that grounded my practice into a measurable, tangible world. And that's big.
A good tool for sure.
Yeah. And it's the foundation of my practice. It's how I operate the clinic. It's how I taught for 10 years at the Chinese medicine schools. It's like I present our work in the language that's accepted by the West. Right, because all too easy our stuff is considered woo-woo,
or at least more understood by the West.
Yeah,
right,
for sure. Yeah. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
How'd you learn all of the anatomy and stuff?
I taught myself all that stuff. Starting when was I first looking at that stuff? Gosh, 1969, 1970. Just bored, trying to keep out of trouble. So I started looking at anatomy books. One thing led to another. Yeah.
Like the anatomy coloring books and stuff, or just?
I had those, but it was long before that. When I grew up, there were these books called the How and Why books, small little books that are really thin. And yeah, just anatomy is very, a lot of anatomy books are pictures more than text. And I was kind of just generally into that stuff. So yeah, the anatomy coloring book I did that certainly later on, that kind of thing. And that was a good book for sure, very helpful. But yeah, and it's just like one question led to more questions, as it does. Right? It's like, oh, why is this? Is this always true? And yeah. So what does this mean? And what, that kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah, and that's how I got on that journey.
So yeah. Well, then also in the anatomy field, you introduced me to my first cadaver lab. And in that instance, I remember it was really special because there was dozens of specimens where in a normal, the way that I understand it, you're lucky if you get one or portion of one, whereas we got entire cadavers, many of them, and kind of got to walk and compare and contrast. And I remember being really excited about that, and you invited me, and I went, but the actual experience of it is very visceral, and the smell, and like, whoa, yo, here we are, and the thought of it versus the experience of it, very different. And so
It's
when
like, for real.
yeah. And so here I am in the mix. I'm like, yo, all right. And you're like showing this, and you're this. And then it was like nearing the end of it, and I hadn't touched anything. And you said, David, come here. And I like came, and you're like, hold out your hand. And I hold out my hand, and you like put a brain in my hand. I was like, ah. And you popped my cherry.
All right.
So how
Is that why you left for a smoke after?
how are you able to, do you still do those cadaver labs?
Yes, not as frequently as I'd like, but yeah. Yes, not here. There's a lab in Colorado Springs that I've gone to and I go to, and yeah, looking to do one in 26. The dates didn't work out for this year, but these are 5-day full body ones.
That's wild. And just one specimen in that?
Yeah,
place?
usually it depends on the amount of people that enroll in it because
Yeah.
they're expensive.
Yeah.
To that. And yeah, so one, sometimes two if there's a lot. And also often there's fixed, which are the ones you would think of as embalmed, but there's also unfixed. So there's no embalming fluid in it, so the tissue retains its full mobility and range of motion as well.
So then what's the smell on that?
Well, there's not the smell of the formalin, right? But I don't know. It's trying to keep it contained in imagination because people's minds can go and imagine all sorts of extreme things, but sort of the mild sense of like if you were to buy meat and it's fresh meat, but it's just at air temperature.
There's smell to it.
Yeah, it's not like a bad smell. It's not a rotten smell. It's just it has a smell, but it depends, right? Like most people, when they're in those labs, have some fragrance around them anyway, so it's not always the highlight. The aromas don't like enter your consciousness so much when you're in the room.
Yeah, that's wild. And your teacher was Gil, if I remember right.
Gail Headley was certainly my dissection teacher for the most part. Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating. And I really want to appreciate you for that, because to make such an experience available, and for me as just, Kung Fu guy, but no, not in a medical program, not in some type of, to have access to that as a standard civilian, it's very, very special. Right?
It is. And I certainly don't take credit for that because Gil Headley and a few of his peers started that realm of it's not just only in the territory of doctors that have access to that. And that's a trend that's continuing and growing for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a really, really special thing that you made available. And it was just right here at Summit too, right? It was like not too far
Yeah,
away.
I did him at Summit for many years at Samuel Merritt for many years. And I did one or two at Chiropractic West too, when Summit sort of shut its doors. Yeah.
Right on. So you blew my mind with movement, progressions and regressions, and flipping them backwards. You blew my mind with cadaver studies. And you've also been really, really supportive of my work in that you'd come to my morning classes and train with us. When I got into athletic playground, you would come and do those courses with us. And thank you for that too, because I honor you as teacher. I introduce you as teacher, and you're perfectly fine with coming to my classes and participating. And you know, that's really sweet. I don't get that from any other teacher, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
The other thing is, what else can I celebrate you for? After my surgery. Yeah, some people don't know. In 2014, I had surgery. I had abdominal surgery. I got dysentery in 2013 in Thailand.
Because you got your guts in a twist.
Yeah, I had this thing growing in my thing, and they had to cut out the thing. And you and Natalie came and saw me in the hospital. And when I got out, you offered me a round of sessions of visceral massage and ongoing care. And so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let me see. The other thing I want to thank you for is here, now that we're in this new space, right? You came every Thursday for the better part of 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was a mess through those 2 years because I was a new father in a new home, transitioning my business, scaling my business, both because I was transitioning from in-person to online. And then I was scaling my business to kind of meet the overhead of this new location. So I was a wreck for those 2 years, and you would come and I'd be all disheveled. And then we would play. And so
in various ways, for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the table, sometimes here, and sometimes I think it was just like, let's sweep this place.
Yeah. I remember like first 3 times you would come, it's like, here's a spear, here's a broadsword, or here's a the spear is supposed to be king of the weapons. Let's try. We would play tag with live weapons. My wife would come out. Dr. Daniel's mom, Cindy, would come from time to time because she'd get knee treatments from me. She'd like, woo. Kevin, my neighbor, would be here. He'd have a blast. Wow.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to thank you for, there's this iconic photo of me at Wudong where I'm doing the splits.
On like that little paved gully thing? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a wall here and a rail here, and I'm like doing the splits between them. And it's one of my more iconic photos. And my caption, "Power in the Splits," brought to you by Donak. Nice. Yeah. He would have us, he had like this suspension trainer rig, and you'd put your one foot in it, and then you'd have a stick or two on either side for balance, and you just kind of swing forward into the splits, and you'd swing back out of the splits, and you just do reps of that. And the other thing I need to thank you for is because you made the distinction between a Kung Fu photo and a Kung Fu video.
I did. Remind me of that.
Kung Fu photo, because I had awesome Kung Fu photos. But he was like, well, how'd you get into that pose? How'd you get out of that pose? Right. And I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, okay, you did your awesome shot. But he's like, okay, let me get out. Let me get in. He's like, take it. Right. I was like, do you really have that? I was like, oh, yeah. So sure, I could do the splits, but did I really have the splits? And then so training with Donak, I got the splits. Do I still have the splits? That's another conversation. How'd you get into all that PLE stuff? Where was the transition from anatomy to learning how to move the anatomy?
Well, I don't know. Let me think how that evolved because it was never a one thing then the other.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's an interesting question. So my more formal movement training started when I would go to a kung fu class with my sister when I was 14, just because we were good friends and it was an activity. And other than that, when I grew up, it was like go play outside, come back when the streetlights come on. And
Mhm.
I didn't have that many formal sports. I didn't go any classes like that,
Mhm.
other than what happened in school. So I got into that.
Mhm.
And so, like most martial arts class, there's a certain amount of time where you're like, let's stretch, let's condition, and so like, well, okay, what are we stretching? Oh, anatomy. Oh. So there's a relationship of understanding just like basic anatomy. It's like, oh, that's like a muscle called the hamstring, and you're doing that, and then so if you push this to where you're strengthening and what muscle, and so there's that sort of overlap of the structure and what you're doing with it. And that's probably where that big genesis was. And then just my nature of looking at things and seeing aspects of things and other things. So I played like a lot of racquetball and squash, and so even in that, it's like looking at stepping forward and movements. And there's that one pivotal moment where I really got into it for understanding the movement. So that martial arts happened for a while. Then I got into Yang style Taoist Tai Chi.
Mhm.
And it's still in that whole time, I'm still just geeking out on anatomy and then starting to, because I was stretching and stuff. And well, where I grew up, there were a lot of saunas. So I spent time in saunas a lot. And in saunas, it's like there were communal saunas. It was just the nature of that. So you're in saunas with friends and people. And so yeah, like stretching people and finding muscles on them. It just started the hands-on, it started the movement. So a lot of that hot yoga kind of thing and all that kind of stuff I've been doing. And it was my main research laboratory in a sense for stuff like that. And then with the martial arts came, I started studying Alexander technique, which is a sort of a movement refineness awareness thing. And so that gets looking into efficiency. And I think all that stuff was just bundling together with learning how to touch and find muscles and palpation skills, and then range of motion skills with stretching, and then movement with the Alexander. And it just kept, what's the next level? What's the next level, right? And then I got involved in circus in the early 80s. You know, there's one discipline that sort of like, I was sometimes rightly or wrongly or whatever, accurately or not, referred to like circus as the non-martial martial arts, because it requires the same discipline and prowess and agility and flexibility and strength, but you're just not really using it to combat.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so that to me is like, oh, there's not really a limit to the movement potential. So thus that practice, that sort of
well,
methodology evolved.
I get that parallel. And I have to say that I went to Wudang and I learned a tradition, but your training with you gave me my skill. It gave me my tradition. It allowed me to live my tradition as opposed to just something that I know how to do, like a choreography or a sequence. Your circus training allowed me to embody those trainings, and I'm not just performing something. Now it's in me.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely say one of the things that has pretty much always been a part of me from a teaching perspective is to teach comprehension more than parroting. Right.
That's why he's my teacher. Comprehension more than parroting. Yeah, thank you. That sums up what I was trying to speak to just there. Yeah, you gave me comprehension of what I learned in Wudang. Whereas, sure, I learned it and I could transmit it and teach it, but it wasn't quite mine yet. And right, you helped it seep in.
Yeah.
And you didn't even teach me more Wudang. You just taught me about myself and principles of movement.
Yeah. And you can self-apply to almost anything, actually, if it's done well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, so the anatomy into movement into manual therapy, all kind of happened.
Yeah, concurrent sort of when one supports the other. And so
Mhm. Of course.
that's one
I get
thing,
that.
right? Bodies.
Mm. Well, then the manual therapy is the other thing I want to thank you for your instruction in that. You would take me through shoulder stuff for my wife. You'd give me treatments, and I learn from that, from receiving. And the other thing, you taught me about liniments, right?
Liniments?
Yeah.
I'll give credit for Brian O'Day for my learning of liniments that I passed on to you.
Sure, that's grandpa. It works. But I didn't know you could mix them. Right? You like first you put on the Jungoose way because it's alcohol based, and then you put the Posamon on top because that's oil based. And I was like,
for clarity, that's a direct learning from Brian O'Day that I love, and I give him full credit for that because it works.
Blew my mind. And I was like, yes, put the alcohol base on first and then put the oil after. But even to think to use two different formulas concurrently was, yes, you can use that, guys. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, was fascinating for me.
Yeah, there's this thing I do with essential oils just to make spritzers. And because I blend what I want. And so it's become a proprietary blend, which is the concept that I think everybody should be open to. Even like I use Dr. Bronner's soap, and you can buy their peppermint and you can buy their rose. And and when I go fill up in bulk, I'm like, I want some rose, a little lavender, and I blend it. It's like back in the day when you went to the soda dispenser, what we would call swamp water. It's like, okay, some Coke, I want a little Fanta, I want a little. It's like it's a concept that's open to everybody.
Wow. Okay. Well, great tool, and I use it often in practice, and I'll even tell people what I'm doing as I'm doing it and let them think like, wow, that's brilliant. Of course you don't want to put the alcohol base after you put the oil base on. Of course not. It's like, and it just seems so logical. Yeah. I want to thank you for your friendship because through all these years, going on 15 years now, that I've had the joy of studying with you and training with you and moving with you, that you've been a loving, caring, kind, gentle friend. And that's a really special treat from a teacher, because I've always been drawn to the hard teacher, the hard skill, the hard training, and you have the training to push hard, but your heart and your hands are so sweet and gentle. Yeah, thank you. You've influenced me a lot. So that's what I had in store for you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
You want to say anything? I talked most of this.
I appreciate all the thank yous. It's nice to know that you got a positive influence in someone's life, for sure. And yeah, I mean, the word that came up for me is not necessarily specific to this conversation, but conceptually is I see the value of kindness just anywhere all the time. Right? It's easy to get angry and fight with people and prove things and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately it's like I think everything thrives better with an abundance of kindness to anything we have a relationship with, human, non-human, animal, inanimate, just some sort of like taking care, treating people on par, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So kindly let our viewers know where they can find you, what you have available for them to enjoy.
Where can you find me? I have a website, www.divingbuddha.com. I spell it DIVINGBUDDAH. But if you do the traditional spelling, you'll also get there. Yeah. My offerings are varied, mainly based on request. So if you want something that I offer and teach, either in private or in groups or studios, then ask me for it.
If you build it, he will come.
Yes. Yes. I spent many, many years of my career making things, hoping people wanted them and trying to sell them. And overall, that's more trouble than it's worth sometimes. As I'm not necessarily the best at guessing what people want because I do such a wide variety of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, anatomy, histology, circus movement, therapeutic movement.
So I sort of break it down into three things. I do body education as a topic, and that means anything like sort of the academics, the sciences, anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, any of that sort of stuff. Even palpation skills, teaching that. And then I teach body awareness, which is like movement, like it could be physical training, could be stretching, like things you would do that require you to be mindful of yourself. From basic rehab stuff to arduous athletic elite training. That's all the body awareness stuff. It's the movement discipline. And then the body work is the hands-on manual stuff that I do with people. And they all at some point overlap and interrelate. But I say those are the three main arenas that everything I do covers, from both beginning level to advanced level understanding, both from the level of just receiving it or to learning to be a teacher of it for teacher trainings. And so at all those levels, which is a big thing, a big amount of things to offer. So that's why I like people to more directly and specifically what of that they want, because many body workers don't want the movement stuff, and many movement people don't want the academic stuff. And so what do you want? I've taught for continuing education for Pilates instructors and the yoga world and the martial arts world and the circus world and the manual therapy world. So I'm in acupuncture. Got my foot in a lot of different doors. So I understand these different worlds and can help translate and transmit information to those paradigms.
Yep. And if fate unfolds in our favor, we may very well see more of Donak here on my platform too.
Okay.
Cool. Last words before I press stop.
Be kind. Everybody's just trying to get by, at least most of us. Some of us are doing better than others, but be kind. Yeah.
Sifu says.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.